Jenny Rain, my friend,
How-
welcome to the pod. Welcome to the community. This is long overdue, I must say.
Yeah, I agree. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yes, yes. So we are really just going to flow today about secure relationships. One of the things I love about you and about what you do, we have a very similar, and I just want to say, like, I don't always bring people on the podcast that have a very similar style or like paradigm or whatever, the way of looking at healing and things. But we do have look at healing, I think, very similarly. We've been through, I think, a lot of the same, maybe not a lot of the same traumas, but a lot of the same experiences of like healing trauma and what have you. And I know you work with clients, you have a lot of great things going on. You're working on your PhD, all the things, it's amazing. But today, what I really, really would love to talk about is this whole idea of secure relationships. Do you like how do you feel? Do you want to jump right into it? Do you want to kind of like talk about kind of what you do with clients? Like, this is really your space and mine, so whatever you feel like is welcome.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for asking. And yeah, I love the kind of symbiosis of what we do too, because I think when you get practitioners that are all working within a similar space, you have the potential of really making an impact on trauma in our lifetime, which is, I feel like that's such a shared goal, that you
Mm-hmm.
have, that I have, and that other practitioners kind of around us. It's like when a bunch of restaurants are in like the same square, right? Everybody
Mm-hmm.
eats better. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if we can get a bunch of trauma-informed practitioners in the same area, we can like make a dent on relationship trauma. And that's goals for
Yeah,
me. Sure.
100% goals. What would you say that I think you might have answered this, but let's just make it really explicit. What would you say that your North Star is with your life and your practice and the way that you work with clients?
Yeah. So what I love is to come alongside of people and really help them, um, dig out patterns that have been keeping them stuck in and away from relationships that are healthy, that soulmate love, that intimate, secure relationship that, they've been longing for their their entire life, but haven't been able to create because of they're duplicating family scenarios, they're duplicating a past, maybe it was abusive or unhealthy relationship. And so they're really scared to ask for what they need, ask for what they want, and to offload the patterns that have been keeping them safe, but keeping them stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what I love to do. I use a lot of my brain spotting, internal family systems. I'm actually just getting started with the somatic practice this year. And then we work together on offloading the things that have kept them in unhealthy patterns, whether they are in a relationship, which I love working with people who are in relationships but are not getting the love that they want, or they're trying to create,
Mm-hmm.
a healthy new normal. So, and both, cisgender heterosexual women, cisgender heterosexual men, or LGBTQ, the LGBTQ community, because I'm the child of dads. And so really, I work across the continuum. So
I love that. I love that. And it's so, of course, like that's something that I really am uh I will go to my deathbed screaming about how there's a better way, y'all. There's a better way, only because I've walked that path.
totally.
And is that something that kind of stemmed from your growth and your development?
Yeah. And what I love about your work, like especially with dating you, is you really kind of hit people at the beginning of the process and say, like, there is a better way. There's a better way to do dating. There's a better way to do relationships. There's a better way to do you in showing up for
Mm-hmm.
this love that you want. And you've modeled that, you've walked that. And that's,
Mhm.
that's so inspirational for me. I've told you this forever. I love your archetypes, like
Thank
love them.
you. Thank you.
That is such a signature aspect of what you offer. I think for me, relationships was the last thing I wanted to coach on. Like,
Mm.
and they have me on tape resisting this niche. It was like, I will freaking do anything but relationships. Like, give me trauma all day long, just don't give me relationships. And because I landed in it after 30, 40 some odd years of a wake of failed relationships.
Mhm.
I'm twice divorced. I have two dads, like, and and a mom and a dad. And I was raised in a world in the 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s that said, like, this is what relationships should look like. And then I have my family. And so there wasn't really, the lived experience of quote unquote normalcy that would give me the predilection to have skills to be doing healthy relationships. So when I landed on this niche in my own coaching, I was like, fuck no. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
am ready to retire now.
Yes. What
And
we resist persists.
oh God. And it goes all the way back to it goes back to probably the early 2000s with me when there were a group of us women who traveled to work with women overseas. And I was teaching on healthy relationships back then. And I was flanked by three women behind me, one of whom had been in a relationship for 70 years. 70 years. Like, I think she got married when she was 12. One
Wow.
been in a relationship for 48 years, and one who had been really in a relationship for 25 years. Like, they met their high school sweethearts. They were, amazing love stories. And I had just gone through a divorce. It was a domestic violence situation. And I was teaching on healthy relationships to, these women. And
Wow.
I felt so inadequate. And
So,
all three of the women came up to me afterwards and said, there's nobody who could teach this work better about what
mm,
domestic violence is, what it means to have a healthy relationship. Like,
mm,
so I think it started there, and then I landed later on my niche. But
yeah.
man, it was a long road to get me.
Mhm.
And there's still resistance, but
Yeah. What I
I,
found with like my practice, and it sounds like it's very similar with yours, is that the thing, like, again, what we resist persists. Like the thing that I really, if I really, really look deep inside myself, it was relationship and love that I crave. Like,
totally.
and I found, like, of course, like there's, what are they, like the three or four different elements of life: relationships, money, health, body, fitness, whatever. And of course I've had my stories with all of those different subsets of life. And it was always for me about love. If I spent money, it was because of love. If
Yeah.
if I wanted my body to look a different way, it was because of love. And so it's been an incredibly healing experience for me. I don't know about if it's the same with you, just about going to the depths of this wound inside myself. And really, with like one of my favorite things about you is like we share a very similar value about like self-development, and work. There is no like there's no end to my drive to kind of find more about myself. And that's one of the things I love about you too. But I think like it just really, there's this thing that I can't really find words about, but it's about like kind of it's the purpose. The more that I heal that part of the relationships about myself, the more that I can teach, the more that I'm purposeful. Like it sounds like that those, like, these women saw that in you. Maybe you didn't see it in yourself. I'm sure that there's a lot of like, oh, I can only imagine like the imposter syndrome coming up. But which is also to note, I don't know if you feel the same way. This is like going a different way, but you feel free to like bring it back. But something that I've learned about this longevity thing in relationships and society is like, and this is something that I've had to learn, I've had to heal myself, which is just because it's a longevity or longer relationship doesn't mean that it's happy. It
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
mean that you're satisfied. Of course, like we know that cognitively, but I still catch myself in this like epic love relationship and partnership that I have right now. I still catch myself
Oh
counting
yeah.
counting the months, counting the years. Do you feel that too?
Yeah, totally. There are so many healthy relationship myths that I feel like have persisted for so long, like, don't go to bed angry, or,
Mhm,
these things that have infiltrated the relationship lexicon that we all live in that are just blatantly false.
mhm,
I
mhm.
know lots of people that have been together for decades that, the only way they know how to connect is to fight. That's not good for your nervous system, right?
That sounds horrible.
So yeah, it is such a journey, an intentional journey to create a healthy, secure, soulmate, epic love. And
Mm,
it takes intentional work and choice every single day that a lot of people, I think, just, you know, they tap out of. Like
mhm,
they start counting, right? Because counting is so much easier and less emotionally taxing than being, having the complex consciousness that it takes to be intentional about a relationship. It's so much harder to be conscious in relationships than
mhm,
to just default or to just fall into, counting days.
mhm,
So, and we live in a society that is obsessed with metrics, right?
mhm,
And a lot of times they're obsessed with the wrong metrics. How
mhm,
much wealth do you have?
mhm,
What's your scale say? Are you
mhm,
120 pounds? Like,
mhm,
do you have the right title behind your name?
mhm,
And all of that is bunk. Like, I went through an entire PhD in psychology and then realized I had none of the skills I needed to become a coach, and so I had to go back to coaching. But the
mm,
world will say, like, oh, well, she's got this, and so she's valid. And it's the same with relationships. Like, oh, you've been together 5 years, 10 years, like, you know what's up about healthy relationships.
mhm,
She don't, boo. Has she done
mhm,
the work? You know what I mean?
mhm.
I
100%.
also I also think that, you and I come at this with I know you are fiercely authentic in what you do. And that has been something that, as I've watched you, because you're a
Mm,
couple years ahead of me on this. So
mhm,
you're running the race ahead of me. And I'm like, really, that's been such a model, such
mm.
a
Thank
beautiful
you.
model for me. But you're fiercely authentic, and you're willing to call things out that, that aren't authentic, because you enter this space as a wounded healer.
Mm,
Also kind of the mentality that I take too. And when you've been through kind of the skids and the banged up knees and the broken arms and legs of relationships, like, platitudes don't work. You want to get in the nitty gritty with your people and say, like, this is what you've been told, but this is
mhm,
what it actually takes to create
mhm,
an epic soulmate love.
mhm,
That means being authentic and being vulnerable. And, sometimes it's harder to find our people that way, because people don't, people want happy meal relationships, right? They're like, okay, well, before I got in my relationship, everything was sucky. And then I found my relationship and now everything's perfect. But that's not how relationships work.
yeah.
So it takes an authentic coach who has done the wounded healing, been the wounded healer, to really be able to deliver true hope
Mm,
experience, you know, to the people out there who are really wanting to create an intentional love.
yeah, man, thank you. I appreciate that and mirrored right back at you. To be real, it took me a while, like a long time. You and I, we talk about business offline a lot. And I love this. First of all, I love this idea of wounded healer. Like I'd never even thought about that, but I also feel like that applies to relationship as well, which we're going to get into. Um, but it took me so long to because there is a very, very strong part of me that is a performer. very,
Oh,
very, 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 very strong. And sometimes, even in this epic love relationship that I'm in right now, at the beginning, which about, that performer got kicked up.
mm,
That performer had like that for some, well, for of course we know why. I was going to say for some reason, but we know why. But um, I think it's just, it's more than hard. It's like, so it can be very excruciating sometimes to listen to myself and to be open to myself and to really tap into, hey, this doesn't feel right. Like, I'm pretty proud of myself, honestly, that I stopped using filters like about a year and a half ago. Like, this it's wild out there on the
I
street, on
know.
the business streets.
Let me tell you about my program with all my glitter.
Yes. But I think you're right. I think, like, just like it is with business and just like it is with relationships, is that, people are attracted to your energy and your, like, I think I read somewhere, you would probably know, you're better about this than I am, but I think I read somewhere that before anyone picks up on anything else about you, they pick up on authenticity. They
Oh
pick
yeah.
up on intent. And it's like, it's a subconscious, probably nervous system,
Mm,
um uh receptor or something happening where we just pick up on not even energy first, but intent and authenticity, right? Because this, whether it be, God or universe or whatever, we want to protect ourselves, right? And so I don't know, it's so interesting. And thank you, like, I'm honored that you pointed that.
yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, you've definitely been a kind of one of my beacons. I have
Mm,
my cadre of coaches that I really watch, and you've definitely been an example, and an example in authenticity. And yeah, I agree. Like, you know, when people get to the place in their life where they're willing to be authentic and vulnerable, that resonates, and then you start attracting people who are more authentic and vulnerable. One of the things that I talk about a lot in the program that I do is what masks are you wearing?
mm,
Where are you being inauthentic?
mm,
Because if you step into relationships with a mask on, then you're attracting and reflecting and mirroring, you know, that with the people that you choose. So your inauthenticity is actually creating inauthentic relationships. And how can you be truly happy? How can you, create authentic connection when you're hiding, behind a mask?
mm,
And
mhm.
so much of this work is being willing and courageous enough to step away from the masks so that we can attract, you talk about magnetism, right? So that we
Mhm,
can magnetize the love towards us that
mhm,
is also authentic.
mhm,
Whenever I have clients who say, like, they just, they'll be really awesome and then all of a sudden they'll disappear. It's like, well, what masks are you wearing?
mm,
Where are you being inauthentic? Where are you not being true to yourself? Where do you not know who you are?
mhm,
Because our who will impact our do, right? Who we are impacts what we do, who we choose, and the environments that we create. And so if you don't know who you are, you cannot possibly know what you want or know how to magnetize and attract that love. And
100%.
yet, especially for women, we live in a society that tells us every day that our who isn't enough, that we don't make enough, that we weigh the wrong thing, that we don't have the right credentials, that we're not good enough or as good as this other coach, that we need to earn six figures, or that we need to, dress a certain way or do the glitter filter, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And that is not conducive to healthy relationships. But to
Mhm,
know that you can break out of that pattern and create an authentic pattern that is true to who you are, like, nobody gives you the skills for that,
no
you know?
one. Yeah.
We- We're raised in systems that tell us to move forward, learn the language of the system, and then speak that language. And then we
Mhm,
come into relationships and it's like, to be successful in a relationship, to create a secure, bonded, intimate, authentic relationship, be yourself.
mhm.
I don't know how to do that.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
so
contrary to popular belief, being feminine is not being a needless blob.
right?
Go
Right.
figure.
I know. Well, and the feminine like is so demonized in our
Mm,
society, right? Because it's a little bit more chaotic, it's fiery, it's messy, right? And our society, we live like this is my whole dissertation. Our society lives in a world that is linear. It wants to put things in
yep,
categories, you
yep.
know. My Virgo chorus part love categories, but yet there is an inherent messiness to love that makes it
Mhm.
beautiful. And
Yes.
that's the feminine.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. I'm gonna make a hard turn here because I really
Totally.
wanted to get to this idea of like all of this stuff is really leading up to really what I wanted to touch base with you on today, which is this whole thing about secure relationship and about what has been your experience. And of course I'll share mine about what you thought secure relationship was going to be, how you are experiencing it, how potential opportunities and potential pitfalls about trying to find secure relationships. Because what I find, I don't know if it's the same with the people that come to you, what I find that the women that come to me is, they know that they want a secure relationship. Like they can read about the attachment styles all day. They've tried to do the work. Like I'm an anxious attachment becomes a label, and it really it borders on a lack of power to change. And I'd love just to open that up, like there's no real question other than like I'd just love to hear your experience about what you see like in your life or in your client's life about like secure attachment. Like what the hell is that? What does it feel like? And I can tell you I did not expect it to feel the way it does now, but I'm going to hold mine until after you're done.
Yeah, totally. I think that what I see kind of in the just in the world with people who come to me with my own experience is people want reasons and they want methods and they want to do anything but drop into their body and drop into the emotions and the decisions, the intentionality that will get them to a secure relationship. They think that a secure relationship is just going to be like delivered like a stork on a silver platter. And
Mhm.
that's not how secure relationships are created. That's not how I created a secure relationship. And that is not how I help my clients create it. And so much of security in my own experience has come from me. Like it's come from me
Mhm.
using my voice, using my boundaries, like learning what hills to die on and not to die on, learning about what it takes for two people to live in a symbiotic state that is, you know, in a healthy way differentiated. So what that has looked like for me, I had to make intentional decisions at the very front end of my relationship to use my voice
Mhm.
because I would hide behind my own masks. I would stifle my voice because that's what I had been raised to do, right? In my family of origin, I learned three things: don't talk, don't feel, don't ask for help. So
Mhm.
when my partner and I started navigating relationship issues, I didn't talk, I didn't feel, and I didn't
Mhm.
ask for help. And
Mhm.
when I realized this is not getting me where I want to go, which was a secure relationship, I had to start talking, start feeling, and start asking for help. And that made the difference. But let me tell you, the first time I used my voice in my relationship, my whole body was like, I used my voice and now I have to get rid of you because you know who I am, right? And I was like lacing up the shoes and ready to be the runaway bride. And he stayed. He stayed put,
Mhm.
right? So I really got to see the interchange between me showing up, him meeting me, and then creating this third space, this alchemical space between us that was the burgeoning relationship.
Mhm.
Now, 4 years later, one of the things that we talk about is I'm so glad we can talk about things. That
Mhm.
all started from a decision that I made to open my freaking mouth and talk about stuff, which then taught him, my partner, to open his mouth and talk about stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that went through everything, like every aspect of our relationship. It's like a decision I have to make every day. Are you going to
Yes.
shut down and shut up,
Mhm.
or are you going to show up?
God, man, so powerful. And the thing you're touching very like a similar experience for me, which is I'm kind of done with this whole idea of in a relationship, and this is going to be hard probably for maybe some people that hear this, but this is my experience. It doesn't have to be yours. But I'm done with this idea that parts of me had, and I think was also not substituted, but like what's the word? Like held up in society and culture, that a relationship is to healed people. And I think holistic psychologists put out some quote cards about this a couple days ago, and it really, really hit home, because what I was going to say is that a part of me thought that I had to be healed, he
Mhm.
had to be healed, and then this whole secure relationship thing would happen. And
Yeah.
that has absolutely, absolutely been not the case
Mm-mm.
whatsoever. But
Yeah.
what I do, the other thing that I don't like about what I felt was portrayed onto me, was that my model, the model that I was modeling in a relationship, was basically what you just said, which is like, what I have to worry about, what I do, right?
Mhm.
I have to worry about, showing up. I have to worry about speaking up. I have to worry about not hiding. Is even when it's really, really uncomfortable, when I do those things very similar, like speak for my needs, or like, ask for certain things, that really, really kind of touch and trigger my core wounds, is it is a beautiful model, not because I want to model him, but it just who I am
Mhm.
is like a healed and developing being.
Yeah.
And um there's this whole, like, this conversation I feel like could last for hours, like there's so much there, there's so much juice in that, because a part of me again kind of felt like, and this is out there, like the goddess women that have taken my archetype, they know this, like, because I was there,
Mhm.
like you have your list of qualities that you want in a man, and when a man does not meet one of those qualities, he is off the books. And that is, yeah, that is so unrealistic. It
Yeah.
is so, um there's a part of her and me, this is old me, that was so perfectionist, that that's all that I was wanting. And I get it, I understand, it's amazing to have boundaries, but like you were talking about, what's the hill you die on? What can you compromise on? What's like your top 3 things that this has to happen, or it's a no-go? Like that's the work that I'm sure that you do and that I do as well. But there's just, I don't know, there's a lot in there. What's coming out for you?
Yeah, so I think it's a both and it's healthy, healthy relationships, that epic love, that intentional love. It's really a continuum.
Mhm.
So it is yes, you have to have a certain level of healing and you will heal in relationship. Yes, you have to have some ideals. What are the deal breakers? And the healthy relationship, the soulmate love, the epically connected love that you eventually land in will have aspects of it that will be everything that you need and nothing you ever thought you wanted. It's a
Mhm.
both and. And I've said, I learned from a friend of mine years ago, flexibility is the best ability. If you are intransigent on what you expect this relationship to be, you're expecting a relationship to be the silver bullet that will heal you, and that's not
Mhm.
healthy, right?
Mhm.
You are going to go into the relationship and as a co-creative entity with the other person and create from who you are and where you are, and then establish this new norm of the relationship.
Mm.
I will never forget uh, my first one of my first classes that I had in my doctorate. The professor put up a Martin Buber quote, and it was, I become an I because of you. And she was
Mhm.
talking about, the myth of Narcissus. And so then, of course, we talked about narcissism and the healthy aspect of that and the unhealthy. But it's so true. Like who we become in and how we individuate as humans depends on relationship. So to expect yourself to be able to get where you're supposed to go in life without another relationship it's not realistic. And yet all of the systems in our life teach us this, right?
Mhm.
If you're in evangelical Christianity, they're like, don't date, learn to just, love yourself and then somebody else will love you, recovery community, like don't date until you're a year sober. I hit 8 months years ago and I was like, in order to get to my next stage of evolution, I have to get out there and start dating again because my wounds are relationship wounds and relationship wounds are healed in relationship with other people. So
Mhm.
I had to take responsibility for my own healing, but then I also had to step into a relationship container with somebody else who was also willing to work his own
Mhm.
program and to do the healing with me. So I
Mhm.
think a lot of this, like, you know, don't date until you're whole. It's not realistic. Now, if you're a hot mess, like you probably need a little bit of coaching or therapy
Mhm.
first before
Mhm.
you get into a
Mhm.
relationship. Like
Mhm.
you've got to have some agency over your own healing, but then you will find healing in relationships. So it's a both and rather than
Mhm.
an either or, because I become an I because of you.
I
Everything
love
in our
that.
society, co-regulation is a biological imperative in our bodies. Like we need other people to mirror and to be a referent for who we are becoming.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a lot of what you and I know in particular, did not experience when we were, in our developmental in our family of origin. So it's yeah, I mean, secure relationship for me has been so wild. I can't even,
That's the
probably
understatement of the
I mean,
year.
it is. I mean, because I have no words. I really like have no words.
Yeah.
Um and well, let's just say I want to set the container. We have about 5 minutes left.
Yep.
Um and I don't even I can have no words. I just it's just so wild to me to really, really feel in my body, like not in my head, but in my body that of course, like I've got my own shit, I got my own house, I got my own business, I got my own car, which I had before. But there was like an unhealthy attachment in my previous relationship to this one about um I don't know, like this constant feeling of anxiety, this constant feeling of performing, this like it's just not there. But, at the beginning, it was, I went through a pretty tough time with this particular relationship at the
Okay.
beginning. It was really, really dysregulating and really, really hard. But we've eventually come to the point where it feels very secure. And, we'll read about like a secure relationship being like, oh, like maybe the trust and the confidence that if he stays or if he goes, I'm going to be okay. But really, really feeling that and knowing like for most of the time that could be the case is just completely wild to me. I don't know. Do you have better words?
No, I think I love the different nuances that we both bring to this idea of a secure relationship, because like for me, you know, so much of what security has been nothing that I expected it would look like. It's been all this stuff that I didn't know I needed,
Mhm.
and all this stuff that I've run from in the past. And then all of a sudden I made this decision not to run because I'm disorganized attachment, right?
Mhm.
So I will like get close and then run away and get close and then run away. And so it has been something that we have co-created together. I always learned, okay, well, the woman is supposed to be feminine, and then the man is supposed to be masculine, and then they're supposed to, you know, you're supposed to match that. And what I've really found in reality is we have this like flow. There are times where I am feminine, and then there's times where Greg is in the feminine. There's times
Mm-hmm.
where, he's in the masculine, and it's like we ebb and flow. And it's so much better because of that. He brings an incredible mothering energy that is the ground of his being that I have always needed. And yet, had I met him, 30 years ago, I would have been like, I don't even know what to do with that. And yet
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly what my system has needed to say, we're safe now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay now. And so I think for me, so much of secure attachment has been, it has looked like that safety and stability and security that his opposite presence to me brings in my life. There's
Mm-hmm.
just that balance. And
Mm-hmm.
I am becoming more of who I am because, he is bringing things out of me. And I think that's the beauty when you're in a really secure attachment is you find parts of yourself that you didn't know were that needed to be expressed. You find your voice. You're not ashamed of these parts of yourself that you have been struggling with your whole life. And all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden, they're given a greater acceptance within the container of the relationship that you didn't know you needed. And I will tell you, I was like, I had so much anxiety the first 11 months of our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I didn't, I can remember having a meltdown because he didn't ask me to marry him in the first 3 months. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like weird. And I had somebody ask me at 3 months, they're like, well, if he asked you today, would you marry? And I'm like, no, that's not the point. So it's like
That's
this
funny.
this relationship container has created the safety for me to like fall apart, put back together, be
Mm-hmm.
myself, let him fall apart, be put back together,
Mm-hmm.
be himself. And it's nothing that I thought it would look like. And
Yeah.
everything that I want every day when I choose it when I wake up in the morning.
Yes. Same. Same. And I think, we've talked about this. Jordan, we've talked about the kind of like finding your authentic feminine, I think was the name of the episode with Jordan. And I feel like it's like very similar vein, which we know, like we know in our head, like we know this, but to really feel it deep in our body and our nervous system of like not only breaking the patterns of like our family and our past and all the trans, across the different
Generations.
generations that we have, but also breaking the script on what we've been told, like in society and movies and things like that, because that's the thing that I've learned most about my femininity and this relationship is that I am defining, it sounds like, very similar with you, like I am defining what secure attachment means to me.
Yes.
Like you've made this deal within yourself, those 3 points that you said, which is like, don't hide, speak up. And the other one, it like very similar happened with he and I is that like, we went through it like a really tough period. And then at the beginning, it was really like poof, back in the old patterns, but he kept showing up, and then we finally met. And, I kind of feel like sometimes that he's God's gift to me because like he's helping me see like that this is a possibility. And we finally made this like pinky swear as like, as silly as that may sound, we made a pinky swear together because he's also a giver. I'm a giver. Like he's been in, in codependent relationships before, same as me, like it's amazing. And we made this deal with ourselves that anytime anything comes up, it's not like truth and honesty all the time, like this whole like society says, but it's, if we made a decision together as a relationship that affects us individually, which was if something comes up, we're going to talk about it, no matter how hard it is, no matter if it's going to be a hard conversation. And that has helped us, that like foundation in that container has helped us figure out what our relationship looks like right now,
Yeah.
and that has been extremely, I don't know, it's just foundational because I use that now as like, well, I made this pinky swear with you and this is something that I don't want to talk about, which makes me think that I got to talk about it. And we work that shit out.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like you're saying, like I do lead more, more than him, or I do hold the space more than him. The difference with that is with me now is that if I don't want to do that, I will tell him.
Yeah.
If I don't want to do it, like, I prefer for him to drive me around, for example, sometimes. And I'd sometimes be like, babe, I'm tired of leading today. Can you lead? And he steps up. So I think the moral of the story is just like anything else is things that we don't know and that you can hear is that you have the ability to create what a secure relationship, what your femininity means for you. How do you feel safe? How do you speak up for your needs and desires? How do you find your needs and desires? Like that's a whole other another thing. But anything in closing that you want to offer for that? Also, at the end of that, will you let everyone know kind of what you're working on and where to find you,
I
please?
will.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the other piece that I hear you say that we haven't touched as much on, but that is so practical in relationships is having those kind of like fair fighting rules. I call it a fair fighting manifesto that I work through with my
Right.
clients because I've got rules with my partner about like we don't roll our eyes at each other. We don't do
Mm.
character assassination, and I'm hearing that you've set up some of those like ground rules for a healthy, committed relationship that I think are so, so important. And going back to Joseph and Jordan, as you know, I love watching the two of them because
Mhm.
their relationship, they get curious. Like, what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a man in this relationship? I'm sorry, to be masculine and feminine. And then
Mhm.
they try out different things. And I think curiosity is such a gift that you can bring into relationships. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Thank
So
you.
how do they get in touch with me? So uh you can find me at jennyrain.com, and my program is called Relationship Reset, and it is basically how to heal things holding you back from a really healthy relationship, whether you're in a relationship or whether you want to create one. And we go deep and look at root cause stuff and have a lot of fun in the process.
Mhm.
I love helping people get to their soulmate love.
I
So
love that. I love that. It's so funny too because and I'll put all the links to that in
yeah.
the show notes. I think it's just in closing, I think it's so funny how I don't know if you find this in your business, but I find that it's very hard for me to tell people exactly what happens in healing and in a
Oh yeah.
container. But I think it also surprises people how much fun, because I love how you said we'll have fun. I think
Yeah.
it surprises people to realize how much laughter and how much fun it is to actually be able to be witnessed for who you are.
Yeah.
For to be witnessed for who you are and for someone to reflect the 3 questions below the question.
Oh yeah.
The question really isn't like what I should put on my dating app. The question really is like, do I think that I'm good enough to put this picture up here? Do I think that I'm good enough to put out what I really want and desire? Am I going to be able to hold my boundaries if that comes? Like
Yes.
there's something to be said about the container that you hold about like I love that you said that about like have fun and laugh because people don't realize like being yourself is actually very joyful,
Oh, so joyful.
you
So
know?
joyful. And like when you are trying something new out, a new boundary, a new using your voice, like you've got to laugh through it. You've got to, the joy is found in trying those things out and then seeing how people, react to them. And sometimes that's funny and sometimes it's, it creates a new normal for you because a lot of times especially with trauma, we're not given the chance to try things out, to get curious and to make mistakes. And how
Mhm.
do you grow without doing all three of those things? So yeah, I love to have fun in the container
Yeah, I
because I
love
know
that you said that.
you
I
do.
love that you said that. You're amazing. Thank you so much for this time. I can't believe that went by so quickly.
I know.
And I'll have to have you back because I feel like that we have a lot more to say, but I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking me.
My pleasure.